Okay, today we're going to talk about Rvest. Rvest is a library that scrapes websites. And why are we talking about this? Well, you just went through the first project and you probably had to grab a bunch of data from a bunch of websites, and you might have used Google Sheets to do that, or you might have just gone to the share as a CSV file and copied and pasted it into Atom. What I'm going to show you today takes that and puts it into it put it straight into R. You can just grab data right out of a website. So why are we doing this? We're doing this because it's much easier. And if you have pretty simple data, which a lot of times in sports we do, you can do this very quickly and programmatically, and you can save yourself a lot of time and hassle. The problem with Rvest and the problem with scraping data from websites is it goes from really easy to mind-bogglingly difficult very quickly. So today I'm going to show you the easy version. The assignment for this particular chapter is pretty simple. Next one I'm going to show you is much more difficult, but it's more about showing you what is possible. There won't be an assignment with that one. So yeah, and we'll move over to the screencast to talk about how you're going to do that. So here we are back in our studio, and what we're really doing is, we're going to flip over to browser here. Let's say, for instance, I was really interested in just how terrible Nebraska was at kicking field goals last season, which, let's be real, was pretty bad. We had like 48 kickers, and none of them were very good, or the ones that were any good were injured most of the season. So something to look at. What I have here is a page at cfbstats.com. It's got all of the stats that I would need. It's also got it going back to the 2009 season. This is a pretty simple HTML table, so it should be pretty easy to scrape out using Rvest. So the first thing that I have to do anytime in R period, I've got to load my libraries. You probably need to install Rvest, so you're going to need to go over here and do install packages Rvest in quotes like that. I've already got it installed, so I'm not going to install it, but you need to run that. So I'm going to load up Rvest, I'm going to load up the tidyverse. So the first thing I need to do is I need to create a URL. So I can call it just URL, but there's some problems with that because you can see there are URL as a real word in R and base R in different places. So let's call this field goal URL, and then it's not confusing. I use the arrow to assign it, and I'm going to put just in quotes, and I'm going to go back here, and I'm just going to copy this URL. Now I can see from this URL, if I look here, I see here's 2019, which tells me the season, leader, national team, offense. So we know that this is offensive statistics. It's national stats, which you can see corresponds to here. Team stats instead of player stats. Offense, split 01, category 07, and sort 05 is just how they do this. I've got it clicked on here, so that's giving me the sort 05. But it just tells me that this URL here will give me directly to this as I may want it. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy that URL. I'll come back over here to our studio, and I'm just going to paste that URL inside field goal URL and run it. So in my environment, I now have a value here of field goal URL. It's just that string. So now with my code, this is all that I need to scrape an HTML table out of a website using Rvest. So I just need to fill in some blanks here. So let's call this field goals, and then here is field goal URL. So very similar to the way we've done this. I'm going to create a data frame called field goals. I'm going to use the data in our typical pattern where the data would be here, but in this case it's the URL. Take the URL and read the HTML. So as soon as I hit the button to go, it's going to go send a request to cfbstats.com and get all that HTML. Then it's going to read that HTML and look for HTML nodes using something called XPath. XPath is a quick way to find a very specific node. In order to find out what needs to go in here, I need to show that to you, and there's also a walkthrough video in the chapter as well, because this is pretty important. So over here, as you may recall from taking previous classes at the College of Journalism, you can see the HTML source of everything. So if I go to Tools, this is Firefox. I can show it to you here in Chrome in a second. and I just go here to say web console, or I can go down here to page source. Page source gives me the page source. Right underneath it I can see all the HTML. Well, an easier way to go about doing this is go to Tools, Web Developer, and go to Web Console. And then what I can, not Web Console, my bad. Actually, I'm just going to click on this thing here. I'm going to control click on a Mac, or right click and go to Inspect Element. And that's going to take me to this, the inspector. And if I hover over something, it'll actually tell me where I'm at. So right down here, this is where I clicked. I'm expecting this element while I was inspecting the rank column. What I'm looking for is this table right here. The HTML table that's got all of my data inside of it. HTML has a table element, and there it is. That's what I want. If I hit Control and you go to Copy XPath, that will give me what I need to get specifically that table. So when I go over here to our studio, I paste that in there. This is what the XPath in Firefox gives me. I can give you the same thing here in Chrome for Chrome users. So if I just go here to Inspect, I'll get the same basic thing. I've got my table here. So if I go to Copy XPath, I can go over here to RStudio, paste it in here, and it's very possible that these will be different because different rendering engines will do different things. So this is going to work just fine. So I have this rendered, or I have this saved for my field goal. So if I just run this and click it, if I look up here, I have field goals, but it's a list of 1. And if I look, the first element of my list is a data frame. To solve this problem, this happens fairly regularly where it comes back with a list, you're just going to take your data frame that you made, and you're gonna, oops, I keep spelling field goals wrong. And you're just gonna say, give me the first element of the list with this bracket 1 thing here. And if I hit that, I now have a data frame over here of 130 observations and 8 variables. And if I open it up, it looks an awful lot like what it is that I wanted. The chapter will walk through some things that need to get fixed in this, like what happens when you want to do multiple seasons. Notice that nowhere in here does it say that this is the 2019 season. So we need to add that, but we also have this problem of a column that is unnamed. The walkthrough in the chapter takes care of that pretty well, so I'm not going to repeat it here. But the most important part of this is just understanding how to go about getting the HTML table element up here. Once you can find that table element, not the div, not any of this stuff here, the table. Once you have that, you have everything you need, and you can go grab that. And it's fairly simple to just go grab as many tables as you need. All right, check the chapter. There is an assignment. The assignment walks you through something very, very similar. So good luck.